We moved to Texas, and one of the requirements was Spanish in this particular private school that I went to. But my teacher had such a shitty Texan Southern accent that we were literally learning Spanish with, now, pay attention, kids, okay? So it's como estás. Como estás?
Come away with me in the night. Come away with me and I will write you a song. Welcome to another episode of Midnight Falafel. I feel like that's the same song I do every time. Tonight we're with Kalil and Lady Zen and Verena and Moxie, your hostess, as always, at Nathan's beautiful magical house. If you could please tell us your name and then like a little nutshell of your cultural background.
Hi, I'm Verena. I am from Germany in Munich, and I've been living in Mexico for 14 years now. I came to Mexico with my family. They immigrated from Munich to Guanajuato.
My name is Lady Zen. I am from Brazil and moved to the United States when I was a little kid. I was 7, and I've been living here in Mexico for 3 years in November.
I'm Kalil. I was born in California, but I've lived in Guanajuato since I was 3 years old. Father from Texas, mom's from Jalisco.
So I'm Moxie, your hostess for tonight and every night. And I was born in Bogota, Colombia, but moved quickly thereafter to, like a month after, to Martinique, where I was there for like a year or two. Then we moved to the United States, where I lived in Florida for 6 months, then Ohio for 6 years. And so my next question for you guys is, where do you feel like you're from?
Like my normal answer is like I am German here in the head and I'm Mexican in my heart. So and it's a great combination. Like I love that.
It is a great combination.
I'm glad that I got the education from Germany. Like really, I'm really glad. But I'm so glad also that I got the cultural part from here. Like that is where my heart is. Like for example, like people ask me how often do you go back to Germany, and I go back like every 6 years.
Yeah.
And that is mostly because of money, because it's really expensive. And I earn like a Mexican. Nobody understands that because they see German and they think like magically I have some money somewhere. I don't know. But that's where I'm very Mexican.
Totally.
Like when it comes to finances, I'm 100% Mexican. You know, so.
What about you, ladies? And where would you say you're from when people ask you, like, where do you feel from?
Well, I think just recently I've come to look at that question as more of a racial marker, because we're living in such a time when genetics are so important, and when all of these, we're all talking about genetics, and somehow that ties us to something. When I came to the United States, I didn't feel American. I mean, America to me was standing in front of a judge and getting a piece of paper. It was terrifying. Even though, naturalization papers when you're a kid are not as difficult to get as when you are an adult, it's still a very scary process.
Sure.
And so I never felt American enough. I never felt, because I'm multiracial as well, it's like, it's difficult to identify with any, all I have are the genetics, but who am I? Where am I from? I guess I would have to agree with being a citizen of the world. It's like, where do I feel? I never felt, I said in one interview one time, I didn't feel American or Brazilian, but I felt Mexican enough.
Yeah, I definitely always say San Miguel, but that's never like accepted as an answer because genetics are so important these days. Anywhere I go, whether it's here in Mexico by Mexicans hearing me speak perfectly fluent Spanish, still there's always like a question mark when I say I'm from San Miguel.
Because you're white and blonde.
Yeah, because I'm white. And the moment I say I was born in California, that somehow makes me
right. Then
less,
it's like your race.
To Americans only. To Mexicans, no. Because of how fluently I speak, I feel like, as long as they hear how I speak, they don't really put much stock into that. But Americans definitely, the moment I say, well, I was born in California, oh, okay, that explains it. What does that explain? I've lived here since before I was 3, like almost 3,
Yeah.
But I do remember my father would always say, like, wherever you go, use your Mexican passport. Everyone likes a Mexican better.
I love it.
Wherever you go.
Yeah, and for that very
use
same
it.
reason you just named, no Mexicans, like, they accept you. Like, even though you come here, like, it's very white, and you say, like, yeah, I'm Mexican. No, and they don't doubt that. They don't.
I feel like there's
no,
more
but you look white."
curiosity than judgment when you say you're foreign as a Mexican. Whereas Americans, I feel, and this may be coming out of my ass, but I feel like Americans tend more to judge you. Like, there's a prejudice behind whatever your racial or where you're from. Even if it's not about your race, where you were raised, where you were born, whatever.
But that's the marketing genius of capitalism, is that we have all of these films that portray Mexicans as kind of really stupid drunk people who, all of a sudden, they were getting run over by the Spanish, so America had to come help them. And there's a really skewed idea and history of what Mexico is. And I think for the longest time, like, to even hear people say, I really want you to be careful. I have to talk to you about something. And I'm like, what? And they're like, I want you to not drink any of the alcohol when you go to Cabo because it's all tainted. It was in Time magazine, and it's all tainted, and they're trying to kill Americans. And I'm just like, wow, I'm not white.
So apply.
I'm not white.
Yeah, that's gotta help here at least. No, but there is, like, definitely, at least financially, there's a lot of profiling going on by the color of your skin. You know, if I get into a cab and they don't hear me speak, really, they immediately want to charge me twice as much.
No,
as
I
anyone
do the
else.
same as you. Like the cab is a great example because every time I make a point to speak Spanish to the cab driver,
Mexican Spanish.
just to let them
Yeah.
see that I'm not a tourist. I'm not a fucking tourist.
And like Mexicanized Spanish, no, like no, pues sí, like just
Yeah, it's like try to
lean
sound
in
as
the
gangster as possible.
Yeah,
the more
exactly,
gangster you sound,
yeah.
the more the price drops.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm really good at gangster.
I
so-
bet you are. I bet
That's
you
the
are.
only Spanish I speak. That
What's
is-
Take me to my fucking house, you fucking moron.
Pedro will
Like,
call
"Oh,
me.
¿qué pasó, compa?
Pedro will call me, and I know he'll be in a cab because I'll be like, claro, sí, and I'm like, what? Like, oh, you're in a cab. You're in a cab, and you don't want to get charged. Do any of you feel any kind of patriotism and or pride towards any country, like towards being from that country in any way, shape, or form?
Like the line between being patriotic and thinking that your country is better than others is blurred sometimes.
Do you
And-
think? Oh.
No, I feel like that happens a lot in Mexico too. But with that distinction actually being made, I definitely feel very patriotic. A lot more for being a Mexican than an American.
No, that's a
I
good
don't know
point.
why.
Like it depends where you're from. Like your combination is awesome and everything, but I kind of don't like my history. I don't like that baggage
yeah,
that I'm already
sure.
carrying from what my
Right.
country has done. You know, like
yeah,
That's tricky.
all the stereotypes
yeah.
that they put on me the very second they know I'm German. I don't like having that baggage on me. You know, because it has nothing to do with who I am. You know, like obviously I have some German qualities and it's part of my culture, but at the same time, it's too general.
Well, I think with the growing up in the American educational system, I keep thinking about how I felt when I was younger, about when I first started learning about Germany and the USSR, and I don't think that I was taught any distinction between Russia and Germany. It was all kind of a blur. It was kind of all mixed up. They were just bad. And because they did all this stuff. But we're not going to talk about what we did because we are spotless. We are America.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that, you know, when you started hearing, because I am so multicultural, Native American people identify with me. And so they would talk to me about their thinking that they were passing on information to me that was critical to me as a being, as part of that tribe. And I wonder if what's happening, you know, the pain that our ancestors carried, they have been carrying so much, and they're all around. I believe in spirits. So I believe that our ancestors are all around us. And finally there's this global patriotism that's happening. And there's a healing that's happening that hasn't happened in any other generation. And I think it's a really special time to be alive
the way that I relate to the world, the way that I relate to like things like nature, music, food, other people, like just emotions and stuff like that is so like primal to me that I feel ancestral. Like I feel, and the way that I hurt when I see other people talking about their pain, like slavery and like the human suffering, all that, the way that I feel, like I understand that I have empathy. I get that. But also it's like the way that I feel it like in me, I'm like, how can we look at someone else and just by the color of their skin be like, you don't have my ancestors? Like probably I have a lot of white in my ancestry, but God damn it, like the indigenous that I have, like I'm sure that it went down screaming and being like, I will be fucking remembered, and that is in my DNA, and it will not be knocked down. It's like I don't care how much Hispanic DNA or French DNA you've got in your system, like you will not forget me, and like I feel that, and so. I get it makes it difficult for me when I see us still talking about racism when we're trying to like unite and like be like, let's stop talking about racism. It's like, yeah, then let's stop talking about racism, because this is about like something more primal, and it's about not letting voices of people that were battered down be forgotten, which isn't even about races anymore, but about like power. And
I mean, yeah, Ancestry. We're obsessed with Ancestry, Ancestry.com.
The DNA thing, have you guys heard of that? That is like the whole fact.
Everybody's doing it.
I want to do that so much.
Because it's fascinating. But what happens when you're like, wow, I'm
exactly
37% Japanese?
I don't get it. I find it such an abstract thing. Like, honestly, I'm more curious about, like, my dog's breed ratio and what his race is. Like, I really don't think it matters. But I've always been that way. Like, since, like, I don't care what you look like. I really don't. Really haven't. And I don't know if that's because of my upbringing or if it's, like, the fact that I grew up in a mostly, Hispanic community. Growing up, San Miguel, back in the day, there were not as many white people as there are today. Going to school, like when I started school in San Miguel, there were no real like white people. They were like half and half here and there. Like I had one classmate who was half German. I had another one who was like half English. But I was by far the whitest in my class, and that continued like into many years. And I did get picked on because of that. So my parents had to move me to like a private, expensive school where there'd be more white kids so that I didn't get picked on, because I got picked on pretty fucking bad.
Is there a standard of beauty is that something that's discussed within your family?
Just weight.
Yeah.
Definitely their obesity is rampant in my family.
But not skin.
Huh?
Not skin.
No.
So it doesn't matter if you get too tan or anything like that, or
it's not nothing that you really grew up with. Like right now, that
really,
you're
like I get called Güerita, but that's like loving thing to say because I'm Güerita.
It's actually
not even. It's just like you're Güerita. It is what you are, and we call you that.
But that's racist, though. The fact that it's a compliment to be Güerita is racist.
No, I have heard them on the market call my really brown friend Güero, no, and this is like just to like smooth talk them, no, because this is here. It is a synonym for like guapo, They call Liam Güero and guapo, like my son, and for him it's the same
guapo, thing. No, Güero, no. Güero is definitely about you having a light color of skin, and it being a compliment is indeed racist. It is, or it is like it's a very common thing to catcall women. Güerita. It is. So I personally don't like it unless it's coming from my grandma.
I don't like to be called Güera either. I don't like it either.
No. I'm like, I always correct people. I'm like, that's not my name. Thank you.
So okay. So was the agreement that we kind of no pride, no like patriotism towards any country, but love for the country in general? Yeah, no love for Germany either.
It's so funny because every once in a while somebody comes up and is like, I met somebody German, like as if I would want to meet them, Always excited. They're so excited to present me to a new German friend. I'm like,
would you come over and talk to her? Let's come on over to my house. You guys can just sit there and talk German. And you'll love each other. I just know you love each other. You probably have the same views. I mean, you're from the same country.
I have,
and you're both girls.
Yeah. How would you? It's cute though.
Yeah.
I had a friend who got into a car with an English-speaking Mexican gentleman who was our tour guide, and she was like, "Andale," and he was like, "Please don't say that. That's a cartoon. We don't say that here." And so I was just like, oh yeah, I'll never say that.
Like that. No. No, you would
Well,
never.
maybe she felt insulted.
I always get talked to in English if the person has any capacity to speak English, or very slow Spanish, like I'm retarded. Like everyone just assumes I speak it. And honestly, sometimes I just let them struggle just because they have the audacity to assume my language.
I love it.
I'm
No,
kidding.
and it
No,
can be-
I
it can
appreciate
be-
it.
How
but
dare you?
I can't help
It
getting
can
a little
totally-
bit offended,
No,
which
for
tells
sure.
you about my patriotism. I can't help getting a little bit offended when someone automatically speaks to me in English.
Yeah, no, I
No,
hate it.
just a
Seriously?
little
No,
bit.
for sure. No, seriously, that's fucking
a little
rude.
bit.
Like that's
But
racist as
not really.
shit.
They're trying to be helpful.
No, they're
They're
being
trying to be
racist. You know,
helpful.
you know what someone told me? My mom introduced me to someone in the gym here in San Miguel de Allende, in the Boom Gym, and she introduced me to some lady. I don't know, some American lady. And my mom, who has an accent because you know we're Colombian or whatever. She has an accent. She goes, "Oh, this is my daughter." In English, and I go, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." And she goes, "Oh my God, you speak English so well." And I just kind of was like, "Thanks." Like,
But why was that offensive?
because what was she assuming? What was she assuming? What was she assuming? Literally, why would she assume that I wouldn't speak English? Like, she's American, right? Like, just because my mom has an accent, she lives in a place where like everyone
Okay. I see. She
speaks
was American.
English. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you are American.
I don't feel offended. I get that all the time too. Oh my God,
no.
your English is amazing.
No,
Especially when I get met through my mom.
It's super good to not get offended. It's super good to not get offended. You shouldn't, because why the fuck get offended? It's a waste of time. However, they're being racist as fuck. And if you do get offended, you have a right to get offended, is what I'm saying. Because it's rude. It's racist as shit. We shouldn't just assume stuff like that, you know? Like, oh,
I think people
in a
mean
country,
well
in a
general.
place where
Like,
you're
there's-
so bilingual. If we're in a place where like people don't speak English at all, do you know what I mean? And I'm speaking Spanish, then it's like, okay, or English, then that makes sense. But like,
I mean, at the same time, if I see someone who looks, I don't know, obviously Korean, you know, I'm not going to go up to them and start speaking in really fast Spanish. Like, automatically, I'm like a little hesitant and I start, you know, like these prejudices, a lot of times you can't help them.
Sure.
And they're well meant. And then, but I think the key is to be open-minded
For
to
sure.
you being wrong.
for sure. Totally.
Because I've been with people that I've
Yes.
spoken to in Spanish for like a while. Like I've had a 10-minute conversation and they're still speaking to me in like really so Spanish, like I'm a retard.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously Spanish speaking and they still can't like
Overcome that.
yeah, my color and my language, they cannot put those together.
Yeah. I actually had one of those really great moments, and you guys can follow this up if you had one of these moments as well, where I was in France with my then roommate, and we were going through Paris. It was such I have so many amazing stories from this time of my life because it was just such a fantastic time when I lived in Paris and I was like 19 and living like a block away from the Moulin Rouge. It was just great. So we're in the metro, my roommate and I, in Paris, and we're speaking in English, her and I. And these guys are doing like little dance moves or whatever, like in front of us. They're like doing these like little break dance in the metro, you know, sort of practicing. They're like, oh, we're going to do this in French, right? On va faire comme ça, you know. And we're just kind of watching them and talking, whatever, because, you know, they're getting attention. So you kind of have to look at them. And then one of them accidentally like knocks my foot, and it's nothing, like lightly taps. And he says, "Oh, excusez-moi," and I just go like this and just keep talking. And then he goes, "Oh, she didn't even understand me in French." And like I turn around and I have a Latino accent, like I have a Spanish accent when I speak French, but like in like my most French accent as I could, I was like, "Actually, I understood you perfectly and it's fine. Thank you very much," type of like comment. And he just turned red. It was like he was just red and pink, and it was one of the most, I was like, yeah, so I'm better than you type of moment, although not really because I'm not that petty, but I totally was for like a split second, and it felt so great. So have you guys ever had a moment like that where
Oh
you
my
were...
God.
Yeah.
Like a million.
I bet, right?
California, but
Yeah.
on on the street, anywhere, like getting hit, like someone saying something about my ass or my boobs or
So,
whatever.
like, but what, in like Spanish?
In Spanish.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're Mexican, and I turn around and I'm like, "Excuse me," in Spanish. Like,
Pero
you're
así
not
de que bien
judging
así
me.
mexicana, like you're
Yeah,
like, yeah, being
totally.
like in their face, being
Yeah,
like,
totally.
te entiendo bien, güey. Huh?
Totally.
Yeah, I'm super Mexican.
100%. That's happened many, many times. This one time at a pizza, at like a Domino's or whatever, I went with my cousin to pick up a pizza, and the order was in my mom's name. And these two guys behind us were like commenting on us and like, ay, la güerita, que no sé qué, yo le daba esta, yo le daba la otra, no sé qué. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I really, like, I do not appreciate that at all.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to calm down and I just asked for my order for Patricia Cermeño. And I turned around and looked at them. They got up and walked out. They got up and walked out like that moment. I was like, you better.
I could just imagine like Kalil being like, yes, hello, can I get the order for Patricia Niña Ramirez, Verena de la Peña. She just starts singing the Mexican anthem. The people are like they piss their pants on the spot, get up and leave.
That could be scary.
Awesome. So, I'm just going to close it up with saying thank you so much, you guys. This was magical and amazing, and it exceeded my expectations, which I'm ashamed to say I had. But you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners. As always, we really appreciate you guys listening to this. We're setting up a beautiful Patreon page for you, and we have Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and I already said Patreon. We're on iTunes and SoundCloud, so just look for your favorite one and follow us there. And thank you so much for your company. Have a wonderful week. Good night.